Dear Edit, last night, I finally went on a date with this guy who's been asking me out for the past couple of months. He took me to a weight loss seminar. What's your what the F king FCK is this moment in your dating history? Went out with a girl for a first date. She took me to a Kumdo lesson, which is a Korean sword fighting sport. I thought that was cool. But it was an advanced class and I made somewhat of a fool of myself, but all in good fun. Anyway, it turned out that she was bringing me there because she wanted me to be part of a documentary about foreigners in Korea. So my looking like a fool was broadcast nationwide. We then visited the Grandmaster's house for Machiavelli and the film crew started interviewing me. They were basically focusing on my relationship with the girl I was going out with. They didn't seem to understand it was a first date. So here I am trying to answer awkward questions without embarrassing both of us on national television. There was a guy who had been asking me to hang out for a while and I finally said yes. He wanted to hang out at his house with his roommate, so I went. He took me into the basement where there was a dirty mattress on the floor and nothing else. I ran. To this day I have no idea what it was about, but I ran and never told anyone about it until now. When I was a teenager I worked at a retail store in the mall and a guy who worked a few stores down would always come in and talk to me. He was super sweet and genuine and would randomly take me to lunch, bring me coffee and the like. It was nice to just have someone to talk to and who seemed genuinely interested in me and what I had to say. He asked me on a date a few times and I always declined. I don't like the idea of dating someone who I work next to, just in case it goes sour. After a month or two I finally agreed to go on a date with him. Because good guys are hard to find. I couldn't just let him pass by. He picks me up at my house and on our way to dinner we get into a car accident. The driver's side was T-boned pretty badly and we ended up having to go to the hospital where he contacted his roommate, who then contacted my date's girlfriend. After my freshman year of college I met a guy on OkCupid and we went to get dinner at Fridays as our first date. Offered to give me a ride. But I said no. He was a couple years older, well dressed, and started talking about how he'd started his own business after college and it was going well. Good for him. Bragging a bit, but hey, that's an accomplishment. So after we order he says let's play a game. We'll each take out our wallets and compare what's in them. Wasn't a joke. Literally started showing me his credit cards and bragging about the higher limits. Ending with clearly you can't afford to pay for this dinner. But don't worry, I can cover you. I was pissed and protested, but he wouldn't take no for an answer. So as we leave he says he wants to show me his car. Unfortunately it was before mine in the lot, so I had to walk by it. It was a white, windowless serial killer van. He begged me to FCK him in it. Right there in the Fridays parking lot. I was pretty glad I drove separately. A guy I had met 3 days previously offered to pick me up and hang out. I was cool with that. But he ended up dragging me around on errands. We went to his dentist appointment, and then when I said I wanted to leave, he said he'd give me a ride home but only in exchange for a blowjob. I was pretty scarred about dating after that. And no, I didn't give him a blowjob. I got out right there and walked to a bus stop. Had a friend's friend ask me out, saying he'd love to just hang out with me and smoke and have a few drinks. I said I don't mind. I found him kind of attractive. He then asked if I liked parks. Yes. I do enjoy parks. I run and our area has several nice parks for running. His response? Cool. Let's swing by park first. We can hang out and talk a bit before going to the bar for drinks. I went on a date with a guy that I met online. He told me to dress nice and that he was going to take me out for dinner. He took me to Subway. Ordered a foot-long teriyaki chicken sub. He looked at me and said, "I hope you like teriyaki chicken." We shared the sub in his car. Safe to say there was no second date. Went to pick a girl up at her house after meeting on a dating website. She seemed significantly larger than her photo, but only in the lower abdominal region. This is when I realized that she had failed to mention that she was pregnant. Similar story. Guy I worked with kept asking me out. I continuously said no. After about a year, I started to feel bad for the guy and said yes to a date. He asked me to lunch, so I figured it could be a quick easy date. He picked me and took me to Wendy's, where he made me order off the dollar menu. And I could only get 2 things. After this very quiet lunch where he hunkered over his chicken nuggets like I would steal them, he said he needed to stop at Walmart. We go in and he heads to the lotion section. Strange. But whatevs. He then grabs 2 scented lotions and asks which one I like better. Being nice, I pick one. And he responds with, "Great. I'll use this for your massage." Oh, luckily I had to work in 2 hours and told him the massage would have to wait. I spent the next 3 months trying to avoid him until he quit. She showed me pictures of her ex's penis. Before and after she photoshopped a little cowboy hat and sheriff's badge on it. I had a guy take me to a beer and Christ thing. He was uber Catholic and thought I could benefit from letting Christ into my cold Jewish heart. So I go. I'm open-minded. I'm only half Jewish and have always been interested in other religions. It was going okay until the priest, the speaker of the night, told us a hypothetical tale of our brother who is paralyzed. We have the ability to cure him with stem cells. He will walk as soon as the transaction is complete. How many of you here would purchase these stem cells and allow your brother to walk again? My hand shoots up. I look around the room. Nothing. No hands. I then notice everybody staring at me, including my date and the priest. I was blessed out like nobody's business and was told I was an embarrassment to my date. Good times. After I made him dinner, did the dishes, and we had amazing sex, he rolled over mid-cuddles to tell me all about his ex-girlfriend. How I had no desirable girlfriend-esque traits. And that the only reason he liked me was because I liked him. I boosted his confidence. This was after a month of seeing each other. On my first date with a guy off an internet dating site, he took us to the Scientology Museum in London. I thought original. Easy to find things to talk about, laugh at the craziness of. This could be fun. Then he proceeded to read every single piece of writing on every single exhibit. Ask the attendant very probing questions about how one goes about joining Scientology, etc. And sounding slightly too interested to just be intrigued about a religion. Also, he was visibly sweating. Once we were done there, we went for a glass of wine and he told me he used to shoot heroin. I was out of there like a shot of heroin. Oh no. That would be so hilarious if I wouldn't feel bad for you. The only f'd up moment was when my date was on the phone for quite a while talking to her friends that I didn't know. It was quite boring. Obviously. It even got to the point that the old lady who had coffee next to our table in the restaurant told me that back in her day, the guys would have not accepted that behavior from their dates. Not that I want to relive the old days, but I heeded her advice. I'm sure this has happened to everyone who has dated online. I met a guy online who seemed really nice. We exchanged a few emails and got along well enough. So we decided to meet up for a matinee. We exchanged pics so that we could ID each other at the theater where we were meeting. I show up, expecting to see the heavy-set dude around my age because that's what his profile and pic said. Instead, he was about 20 years older and 100 pounds heavier than his picture. I am a fairly open-minded person when it comes to dating. And I know that many folks embellish. But come on. We watched our movie in silence. And politely parted ways. I thought you were meeting up for a manatee and was like, whoa. What a cool date. There's been a few, but the absolute worst was the woman who turned up to the pub with literally no money, expecting me to buy her drinks and dinner. I wouldn't have minded if she'd have told me beforehand, but this was completely out of the blue. So anyway, we sat there making awkward conversation. Or at least I tried to start a conversation. Told her about my life. Asked her questions. She was too busy texting and phoning her friends to really take notice. So eventually we did get talking. And then out of nowhere, she told me that she killed her dog. Not accidentally either. I just upped and left and avoided all contact. That was 2 years ago. Jenny, how do I get out of this lol? Tell him you killed her dog lol. At least she put the crazy front and center early on. Yikes. I met a local dude on OkCupid and we decided to meet up one night to hang out. He took his penis out in my car because he thought we would have sex. Not okay. Sir. Not okay. He took it out. Ugh. The spontaneous unveiling of junk is the absolute worst. When the moment comes for your penis to join in the festivities, it should be more than abundantly clear. You know. Little subtle indicators such as my hand being stuck down the front of your pants. Me undoing your fly. Or me directly asking you to get it out. Already. Dear. Sweet gentleman of Reddit. When in doubt, don't whip it out. Alright. I'll post one. So I went on a couple dates with this girl and she was giving me some signs that she was ready to get a little physical. So I lean in close and try to kiss her. And she turns her face away from me. Stunned, I end up going home and thinking it was over between us. Later on, she contacts me and starts hinting we should go out again. I decide to go for it. Again. After getting some heavy hints and she pushes me away. So now I just ask. What's going on? She says. I am on dates with you so I don't feel like I'm undesirable. But I'm not attracted to you. She called me the next day and I told her I'm not dating people who make me feel undesirable. Then hang up. Damn, what a colossal thunderk. At. Reading this thread, and many like it, reminds me that I am not a terrible person. It's good to know. First date and he took me to a strip club. I took a girl out on a first date to see Sucker Punch. I didn't get a second date. I remember a hot little gal in college who agreed to go out with me. She said she had a surprise for me. Christian revival meeting. I was on the bus once watching a conversation like this take place and it ended with, dude who was unlikely to get laid, yeah alright. Who else is going? Hot Christian girl. Well. Jesus will be there. Well, I had this major crush on this girl. She was gothish, which isn't my thing normally, but this woman was extremely intelligent and cool. So the first date is good. We have a good time. We're both drunk and we go back to my place. Mind you, she's very open with her sexuality. So things get hot and heavy. Right when the action is going to start, she says, I don't actually want to do this. Imagine a semi-truck slamming on its brakes. Okay. I say that's fine and we just sleep off our drunk. This exact same thing happens a second time and I'm starting to get annoyed only because it's painfully obvious that our mutual actions during the date are leading to sex. Finally it happens a third time and I decide I'm over this girl. About a year later I find out from her friend that she was hoping I would act out a rape. She wanted me to be like FCK that. We're F-kin. I pointed out that this would, in fact, constitute an actual rape. Not acting one out. I then found out she had herpes. So in the end, Emmy for the win. Setting. Blind date at a sushi restaurant. I was 24. He was 19. We already had nothing to talk about, so I told him this story. I had gone to the local game stop for the sole reason to talk to the guy behind the counter. I got in line. Had some small talk. And as I was getting my receipt, I asked him, hey, are you seeing anyone? His reply, me? Dot. I'm gay. I was mortified that my gaydar failed me, so I just gave him a high five and left. I was still shocked and cried in my car. About 5 minutes after I finished that story, I look over to the 8-person group beside us. I caught the eye of the very same gay guy I hit on at game stop. We waved to each other. He was with his boyfriend. Whoa. Still better than, hey, are you seeing anyone? I'm straight. I would take all of you out and do none of these bad things. Okay, so I had been seeing this guy for about 2 years. We lived together and I knew he was a bit of a pervert, but essentially harmless and adorable. So we went out to dinner one night and we got onto the topic of incest. Yeah. I don't know how, and we ended up in a debate over the moral and psychological implications of incest. It took me about 40 minutes to finally convince him that parent-to-child incest was damaging to the child. But he refused to concede any point about sibling incest damaging the family dynamic. And he just kept talking about how hot it was. So I asked him flat out, okay, so if you and I had children and they wanted a SZL relationship, you would not discourage that in any way? He said nope. And said he'd encourage it if he could. Well, that just instantly assured that you and I will never be having children. Honestly. Anything I felt for this kid just fizzled out in that instant. I never let him touch me again. A guy I was totally into moved pretty far away. We were interested in each other though. Spoke a lot and eventually he decided to visit me for a weekend. I imagined romantic things happening. He wanted to go wallpaper shopping. And so it was that our first date was in the home furnishings department of John Lewis. He got lots of very ugly samples. Then we went to Habitat where he looked at lamps and said the word rimming very loudly. Within 5 years we were married. When the girl said you're not the best I can do. But hey. Bitch. If only she knew who you were. One of the people I dated took me to her parents' house for our first date. Wherein I listened to her dad talk for an hour about this deer that he was so inept at killing it took 4 bullets to finally put down. It's times like those I wish I had a jetpack. Did he hit it all 4 times? Or was it like 2 misses and a bad hit and a kill shot? What was he shooting? I wish I had a jetpack too. That'd be cool. I have some first date doozies, but my biggest WTF moment was on a first date when I was 20 years old. I went on a 10-minute date with an acquaintance from a group I hung out with. Everything was fine until the waiter showed up. Our waiter was black. This was apparently a big deal. He did his spiel and asked for our drink order. The minute he turned to leave, my date started giving me his hate-laced views on the African American race. He zipped his mouth when the waiter returned, but the look on the waiter's face was clear. Someone had told him. I was horrified, mortified and totally shocked. As the waiter started to ask for our order, I was digging in my purse. I threw a $20 on the table. Told him I did not agree with anything he was saying and was very uncomfortable and bolted for the door. He called me daily for 2 weeks after that, saying we could go out again because he understood I was shy and just got nervous. What? Another goddamn pyramid scheme. They keep changing the lingo and the products, but it's always the same. Recruit people to sell to be under your team. What a crock. I have had a few friends who kept trying to pull me in. A few got so aggressive I had to block them on Facebook. Like the top commenter said. You're a saint for sitting through that. I take this 28-year-old out. We go dancing. I bring her home. Lean in for the kiss. Get the kiss. Feel some resistance. Ask her what's up. My husband recently died. Poor thing. Grief is a strange thing. You can never tell when you're actually ready to move on. Sometimes you think you are, but you aren't. It happens. You have to start over somehow. There's a young lady out there with a story about a date she had during which the fella talked an awful lot about his ex-girlfriend, and despite this, she offered him the opportunity to kiss her goodnight. But the guy just said goodbye, drove off. In my defense, I did not know it was a date. I feel like the most gentlemanly, best date ever. 9th grade. First date. He was an only child. His mom drives us to the movies. When we get back, his mom starts crying and saying he was gonna be a big football star and I'm a gold digger just trying to capitalize on his success. Mind you, he's third string of the school's 9th grade team. They had a family meeting. My sister arrived to pick me up. They wouldn't let me leave the room until it was resolved. TL. DR. Mums of only child sons are batch T nuts. Edit. Clarity. Look. Lady. I'm not here to try and console you, but you deserve a damn medal. Or sainthood. I would have come across the table and strangled somebody to death for implying I needed weight loss so bluntly like that. Look. Seriously. That's some hard-boiled bullshit. You're my hero. I managed to sit through it by imagining myself gouging his eyes out and feeding them to his teammates. Seriously. I think I was just really in shock. It was totally unexpected.